Hi there, Cosmic Family. My name is Leal. I had an interruption, so I am restarting the video. Yesterday, February 6th, Mercury entered Pisces, and it is going to stay longer in here than the common time that it spends in each sign, because it is going to stay until April 15th. It is going to make a retrogradation from February 26th. I'm going to talk about more of the dates later. Therefore, Mercury in Pisces, it is going to accompany us for the rest of the eclipse season, participating of the next lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 3rd. The entrance of Mercury in Pisces is adding a little bit of water in the sky. In short, it is also Venus, the one that is going to enter in here. And with a stellium in Aquarius, many times this could be traduced in excess of mind and focus towards the future. Even the shadow of Aquarius could be that the detachment, which is the virtue of this energy, is transformed in losing contact with our humanity and our empathy, losing sensibility in the face of things that are happening, or being focused in superficial experiences that are occupying our mind. In this sense, social media has both effects. I mean, we could access to information and causes and collective causes that we could participate of, but participate from, but also we could produce this loss of contact with what other people are transiting, and this conformist adaptation, which is not the same than cultivating acceptance for the things that we cannot control. It is this conformist adaptation to things that are in distortion in our society. I also believe that it's important to transmit that involving ourselves actively in the changes, in the collective changes, begins with our own experiences, and also taking action from our emotional imbalances, or focusing ourselves in going against people or ideas, especially if we are noticing that they are operating from corrupt spaces, because those are the energies that are more fed from the human emotional imbalances. I don't think that is the most evolutionary process. With this, of course, I am not referring to being in favor of something that clearly is not in agreement with our values of the soul. This is the fine line in these times of sustaining ourselves very firmly in our boundaries and in what we feel that could produce growth, without this mean being inflexible to new ideas, or believing that we know everything, and putting the focus, focalizing the energy in what truly builds, because not the things that are not building or constructing in an evolutionary way, they are going to end up dissolving. Let's remember that Neptune is the axis of this minor grand trine that accompanies the great collective processes in the next years, and it is going to be dissolved because it cannot contain the ascendant consciousness towards the whole humanity is impulsed to go to. This doesn't mean also that everything that is new is actually aligned or able to contain these evolutionary states in terms of ideologies and technologies. But coming back to Mercury in Pisces, well, it is not in a sign that is that has a lot of affinity with Mercury. Pisces actually is the no mind. It is the representation of the energetical seed that the cosmos is. From the things that have form to the things that doesn't possess this form. So Mercury in here, it is not the transit that makes easier to talk on or communicating with clarity and concepts and ideas, but it could make easier the communication from the heart if there is an openness to do it, or a space to do it. It could be a Mercury that comprehends beyond the words, that could feel actually what the other person is expressing, or transmitting the energy and delight in the words, or the absence of this. I mean, there could be people that are repeating concepts and ideas that are empty, because Mercury in Pisces shows us that the comprehension, the intellectual comprehension, is not everything that is required to grow. I am referring that, for example, we could understand from our mind that something it is not contributing in our lives, whether this is a pattern, a relationship, a space. But we need to download these things to our emotions, to our body, to really assimilate that and make a change. The emotional process in that level is very, very important, because if we don't include it, this prevents us from moving forward. It is the mind precisely which in many occasions creates these barriers to access to the level of the emotion. For example, we cannot open ourselves to the grief of a situation, because the mind still sustains an expectation or an idealization, which is the shadow of Mercury in Pisces. Or we cannot open to a new opportunity and feeling enthusiasm because the mind is attaching to the pain of the past. So Mercury in Pisces is this chance to process with our mind, of course, because that is Mercury, but uniting that with our intuition, feeling what energetically produces a person, a path, a decision. It is also an opportunity to open ourselves to new forms of comprehension of the experience, the human experience, much more compassionate and loving, instead of, you know, watching things, looking things through judgment and preconcept our imbalances or imperfections or that of other people, going through the veils and seeing that behind those imbalances there is fear and pain. Of course, it is very important to not confuse this comprehending with justifying or tolerating. In fact, when someone is having, this totally imbalanced behavior, lack of respect, lack of boundaries, without any intention of repairing or taking responsibility of that, tolerating that is not empathy. It's fear of using your voice to express yourself, to put a boundary, fear of losing validation, or fear of abandonment and rejection. Empathy is an emotional resonance that allows us to feel what other is feeling. It's not understanding from a mental level. That's why we can get excited, we can laugh, we can cry with experiences of other people, with animals, or we feel impacted by a song or a painting. It could also occur that empathy is mixed up with projection. I mean, that what we see on the outside could impact us emotionally because it is linked to an experience that we are living right now or that we experimented before. And perhaps it is not that much, what the other person is living. And this, well, it is important to observe because many times it could lead us to want to invest our energy in saving other people until we are draining ourselves, not because that those people require that in order to grow, but because perhaps we want to repair on the outside something that we really want to solve inside. It is very different to learn to transcend something, certain kind of experiences, and from that point, putting those bridges or help other people. One, it is being born from wanting to accomplish an ideal on the outside of things that we need to generate inside, and the other is an experience that we transcended inside that could offer tools for others outside. But the responsibility of the path continues to be of oneself. So, of each one of us, I mean. So I am making these clarifications because Mercury, of all the Mercuries, this is the one that has more difficulties to express boundaries, to discern from expectation and reality, to tell with clarity what we want to say, for fear of the response of other people, to leave, words and communication that are misunderstood, that could give place to chaos and confusion, or even, appropriating of other people's emotional states and in a way that is not contributing. This is going to be increasing while planets are entering Pisces. It is a very imaginative and dreaming energy in its shadow as a way of escaping from reality and putting the focus in situations or experiences that are not among the possibilities or that are not part of reality. But in other level, it is a transit in which we could, catch the symbols, the signals, the inner images, or in dreams even, or perceiving the world with a look that is much more sensitive and creative. Even, whatever artistical activity that you could do or meditation practices that you want to make, this flows a lot with this energy. It is important to descend ideas to earth too, to write, to paint, or make music. Or simply being in contact with our inner world, and if we are calling to do so, we can share that with other human beings. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.